Hi, I'm Tim Sullivan. At the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, we work to drive New Jersey's economic growth and innovation to help build stronger communities within the state. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. NJM Insurance Group. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority. The Turrell Fund, supporting right from the start NJ. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer. And by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
There it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Well, welcome One-on-One on Steve Adubato. There's an awful lot to be said about infrastructure. I know it's not sexy on the surface, but if you dig deeper, important stuff. Gentleman we're about to see on camera will tell you about. He is Dr. Philip Mark Plotch, who is author of a book called Politics Across the Hudson. He's also associate professor of political science at St. Peter's University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Politics Across the Hudson is about the Tappan Zee Bridge.
It's about the Tappan Zee, but a little bit more. It's about what it takes to build something today. As we know, we have crumbling infrastructure all over the metropolitan area, and we have had all sorts of different problems. We haven't had really many new infrastructure projects built in a long time. Yep.
So how does this, which is no longer called the Tappan Zee, it is called the
Mario, after Andrew Cuomo's father.
It's not called the Mario, it's called the Mario Cuomo.
Mario Cuomo Bridge, yes.
Got it. Okay, so there's Andrew, the governor of the Empire State, while we're taping in the Garden State. How the heck did they get this done? He's there at the Tappan Zee, now the Mario Cuomo Bridge. How did they get this done?
So I started writing this, trying to figure out why it was taking so long. It had been about 30 years of studies, like nonstop study after study after study. It was, what do we do with the bridge? Do we build a new rail line? Do we build a light rail line? Do we build HOV lanes? Do we move people in clustered areas around train stations? Do we have high occupancy vehicles for buses? I don't know if maybe we're talking about high occupancy bicycle lanes at some point. So it's really one study after another, and the governor comes in. And he says, we have to scale this thing back. Because what they were talking about when he became governor was a $20 billion project, which was completely unaffordable.
Not happening.
No. And what he's
federal money?
They were hoping for federal money. So what happened was the study started in 1980. And after about 15 years of more studies, the state decided they were going to build an HOV lane. But Governor Pataki decided that wasn't good enough. The Thruway Authority wants a new bridge.
Governor Pataki succeeded Governor Mario Cuomo.
Correct.
Who tried to run for a third term. Go ahead.
That's right. So Governor Pataki says HOV lane doesn't really cut it. The Thruway Authority wants a new bridge. Metro North wants a new railroad. Let's combine those two. So sort of a shotgun wedding, two agencies that didn't get along, couldn't really talk to each other, and they come up with this massive project that was popular for everybody, a new rail and a new bridge. Trouble was it wasn't affordable, but nobody wanted to say that. So the easy thing to do for Governor Pataki and his two successors, Governor Spitzer and Governor Patterson, was to continue studying it, because everybody's really happy when you're studying it.
Kick the can down the road, otherwise known as government policy in the eyes of some. So what does Andrew do? So
Andrew says, we're going to get rid of the rail piece. So the rail piece was a really important piece because everybody wanted public transportation.
Right.
But he saw, okay, what can I get done in my first term of office? Because when you're a politician, you care about every 4 years. That's your calendar. Some people think long term. Some people think very short term. If you're a newspaper reporter, you think about like the what's going on that night, right? So he's thinking 4 years, I can start building a bridge and get meaningful progress on that bridge if I get rid of the rail. So that's what he did. He got rid of the rail. But he put so much political capital, so much of his attention, so much state resources. He got the president to say, this is a priority project for the nation.
And the president at the time was?
Was Obama. So he knew how to work the White House, because he used to be a
He also
secretary of
worked
HUD.
in the Clinton administration as a secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
That's correct,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so he knew how Washington works, so he met with the chief of staff, and he gets the federal government on his side. He has the state apparatus. He has all the state authorities working for him. He gets the best and brightest people from the state to work on that project. He gets hands-on involved with every decision, and he makes sure everything gets done so that by the time his second term is over, he has the bridge opened up.
So, this happens. Is it controversial?
It is controversial when he makes that initial decision to get rid of public transportation, because he wasn't expecting it, because he hadn't been part of 30 years of studying it.
Is it controversial to name it the Mario Cuomo Bridge?
Yes, obviously. So I always think if my kids ever become governor, I wouldn't mind if they named the bridge after me,
Right.
but a lot of people obviously don't think it's such a good
Hold
idea.
on one second. We're in New Jersey, but we understand the politics in the region pretty well. Is it fair to say, don't the Republicans in the state Senate up in Albany control the Senate?
So they did.
I'm talking about at this time.
At this time now, it's the
No.
Oh.
At that
At that time, yes.
the Republicans control the Senate.
Yeah. So Andrew Cuomo, he's Machiavellian. He knows how to make a deal.
You make reference to the great Niccolo Machiavelli in the 1600s?
Yes. He knows how to give.
What does that have to do with this?
Because everything is about politics. Everything is about making a deal. Everything is about getting the resources you need to further your goals. So he puts the budget, which is almost like $100 billion, in play at the same time he's trying to name the bridge after him.
So, hold on. If he was able to make this bridge happen, the largest bridge...
One of the longest and widest bridges and most expensive bridges in the world now.
So, why can't we have the Gateway Tunnel? Why can't Andrew Cuomo, together with the governor of New Jersey, Governor Murphy, together with the United States senators in both states, work out a deal with Washington? Why can't we get the Gateway Tunnel?
So Andrew,
that additional, right?
So Andrew Cuomo's
into New York City from New Jersey and back and forth. Go
So
ahead.
Andrew Cuomo's pretty shrewd. He's taking on a project that he knows can get done. So he takes on the Tappan Zee when he knows he can get it done. For the 2nd Avenue subway, he wanted it done at a certain date, and he takes it on when he knows he could do that. For Gateway, he can't control the federal funding. He can't control Amtrak. He can't control New Jersey. He can't control the Port Authority. He can't control New Jersey Transit. So that's not for him. That's not his project. But
he doesn't care that much?
Well, it's not that he doesn't care that much. It's just that he knows that it's not a winning ticket for him. So
what about for the people of the region?
So it's really, obviously it's really important. But if you
the
look
Gateway
at,
Tunnel is huge.
Do you look at the electoral map right now? So if you look at the electoral map and sort of picture.
Don't be sitting there telling me that Donald Trump says, I'm not going to win New Jersey, I'm not going to win New York. No biggie.
It's more than that. It's, if you think about the Northeast Corridor, and the Gateway is really about the Northeast
Yes,
Corridor,
it is.
right? So it's Virginia and Delaware and Maryland.
I'm not going to win
New
those
Jersey,
states.
New York.
I'm not going to win Connecticut.
Rhode Island,
I'm not going to win Rhode Island.
Massachusetts.
Are you serious?
So there's nothing in it for him right now. The only thing in it for him is to use it as a trade. So if those states will get together and say, we'll give you a wall in exchange for a tunnel.
What does a wall have to do with the tunnel?
Because everything is negotiable. Everything is on the table when it comes to all of these huge mega projects.
What's the biggest takeaway from all this? By the way, you have another book coming out on the 2nd Avenue.
Actually, it's about the 2nd Avenue subway, yeah.
Right.
Which is, so the Tappan Zee was interesting to me because it was 30 years of what's going on. The 2nd Avenue subway is 100 years of trying to figure out what's going on.
Biggest takeaway from this? What should we learn from this?
So the biggest takeaway is you understand when politicians are telling you the truth and not telling you the truth. And if they don't talk about money, chances are that they're dreaming a little bit. And where you're coming up with the money is, for these big projects, the most important thing for sure.
You could have all the vision in the world.
Yeah.
If you can't pay for it.
Right.
Dr. Philip Mark Plotch.
Yes.
Who is an author of the book Politics Across the Hudson, also associate professor of political science at St. Peter's University, in a town that cares deeply about transportation, Jersey City.
Yes.
Well done, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
This is One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back after this. That was great.
To see more One-on-One with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Everything you've ever wanted or needed to know about the summer brain drain and what to do with your kids in the summer, we got Dina El Nabli. She's editorial director, New Jersey Family, a great publication that's all about what?
parenting in New Jersey, things to do with your kids. Really, that's it. If you want to know great things that's going on in New Jersey for families, we've got it covered.
So let's deal with this thing called, I just told you our kids going out of school for a little bit. I'm thinking, is this summer brain drain already hitting them? What's the brain drain?
So basically, on average, kids lose about 2 to 3 months of what they learn. They forget in the summer because they're not, in school, so they're forgetting, mostly in math and reading.
Right.
And then when they get back to school, it takes teachers about 2 months to reteach what they've already learned and review. So that's why everyone emphasizes summer reading, but we also want to talk about STEM and opportunities for kids to learn about science and math interactively over the summer.
Could you do this for us, Dina? Just tell me, and I'll tell my kids, because I'll make them watch this. When you get a summer reading list from school, beginning to read it on August 27th is not the appropriate time, correct?
Correct. But if they're procrastinators like me, they might do that.
But that's you lose the whole point.
Exactly. They should be reading all summer. And start with something they like instead of something they have to read, just to kind of get into it.
So let's do this. Dina's going to take us through some places. Listen, particularly when it comes to science, technology, engineering, math, really great stuff. Some places in the summer in our region, New York, New Jersey, the greatest region in the nation, the Thomas Edison National Historic Park.
Orange.
It's around the corner from our house, and we haven't been there yet. Why should we go?
Oh my goodness,
it's
you
ridiculous.
need to go. That's crazy. So it is. Everyone knows Thomas Edison. Kids know he invented the light bulb, but it's something quite different to actually see where he worked. He had over 1,000 patents, the phonograph, the telegraph, and you can see his lab. So it's a national park site, so you could do the Junior Ranger program. Kids can get a badge at the end. They can see the first movie studio, a replica of it.
Does someone talk you through this? I mean, they have people there to explaining what you're
Yes,
seeing?
that's part of the Junior Ranger program. And there's also, they talk you through. And you can see his lab, his library, invention-inspired art, fun instruments. There's also his home where he lived nearby. You have to call ahead, but you can see his estate. You can see his electric car, his greenhouse.
It's great stuff.
It is.
Ready to go to Jersey City?
Yeah,
Liberty Science Center. Talk about it.
Liberty Science Center it's kind of the crown jewel of STEM in New Jersey. It has this really awesome planetarium, the largest in the Western Hemisphere.
Awesome. Love it.
Everyone needs to experience it. The new thing this summer is the Beatles Laser Light Show, which is really cool. And then there's a Beatles Laser Light Show.
The Beatles?
The music of the Beatles.
We just had a segment on the history of the Beatles. This is great.
You did,
Go ahead.
yeah. And then it's tied in with the movie coming out, right, yesterday.
That's awesome.
So I'm taking my kids to see it.
But not yesterday, you're doing it today, right? Sorry, that was a terrible joke. I apologize.
That's good.
So that's awesome because...
So anyway, it's awesome because there's so many fun exhibits. There's an awesome Lego exhibit happening this summer. It just opened. We just checked it out last week, and it's iconic like Lego. 1.5 million Lego pieces by this Brooklyn-based artist, Sean Kenny.
Look at this right
and
now. Take a look
he's
at
doing
this.
animal sculpture.
Is that it?
Yep, polar bears.
That's sick.
Venus flytrap. And basically, while kids are looking at these amazing Lego works of art, they're learning about these animals, the endangerment, their habitats, how we coexist with them, and kids can actually make their own Lego creations at the end of the exhibit.
By the way, I said where we are. 3 miles to one direction, you got the Thomas Edison thing going on. Around the corner from us is
the Montclair Art
Museum. Montclair Art Museum, and absolutely love that place.
Yeah,
Make it come alive.
I'm sure you've been there
many times.
That's your hometown. So, and it's such a beautiful place. So, it's a great opportunity for kids to appreciate art without having going to New York City, and that speaks to the arts and STEM, which is why we call it STEAM, to really encourage a well-rounded curriculum. There's a lot of great exhibits, and there's a lot of great camp opportunities and classes. If you have some of your kids are older, they could do digital photography, video game animation. The younger kids can do a camp where they're doing art classes. There's plenty to do.
By the way, I also want to plug this. I'm going to plug a million places, but the Montclair Art Festival, Montclair Film Festival, Montclair Film has a great summer program where they teach all about filmmaking, and it's a great thing to check out as well. It's a great initiative. We don't have everyone in this loop, but the Newark Museum, where I grew up as a kid, the Newark Library and the Newark Museum, right here in the heart of where we're taping in Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. Tell folks why it matters.
It's a great place for art and science. It has a planetarium that's really awesome. It's affordable for kids. It's like $6 extra for your ticket. A lot of planetariums aren't as affordable. There's a Saturn exhibit there with live dispatches from Cassini aircraft, so you really feel like you're on ground zero with like mission control to see what's going on in Saturn. There's a maker space where kids can roll up their sleeves. They can create with clay. They can build with blocks. They can use the machines like 3D printers. And roam around the museum, see what inspires them, go back to the makerspace and make something.
go across the river.
The Museum of Natural History in the city, kids know it. Maybe they've been on a field trip. They see Night at the Museum. They want to go see the big iconic blue whale. But there's also a lot of interactivity there. On Saturdays, they have education labs where they can learn about everything that the museum covers. They can do fossil collection. They can do digs. There's so much to do there.
There was another one you
I
wanted to mention.
wanted to talk about the Intrepid, because the Intrepid is like
over on the west side,
on the west side,
by the boats that go back and forth.
Right by the water, yes, and you're standing on
the ferry. That's right by the ferry.
Yes, exactly, and you're standing right on the platform and legendary.
Tell folks what the Intrepid is and why it matters.
It's an aircraft carrier. So it's like military history, science, space. It's an aircraft carrier. It houses the Enterprise NASA space shuttle, so kids can see an actual space shuttle. And why it matters this summer is that the Intrepid is doing free Fridays, so your whole family can go for free on select Friday nights. Take a half day from work, take a trip, and hang out from 5 to 9, watch a movie on the flight deck, look at the stars through a telescope. It's one of my favorite places.
We live in one of the greatest regions
really
in the
so much
nation, in the world, to find out about interesting things in the summer. We can't let this summer brain drain beat us, right?
No, and it's fun. All of this stuff is fun. It doesn't have to feel like work.
It's not work, it's summer, but we can learn anyway.
Yes.
Dina, thank you so much.
Thanks for
Very well
having
done.
me.
By the way, check out New Jersey Family. We find out all the time what's going on, especially for our kids. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We are coming to you from Shelburne, Vermont. Why? Well, this is part of our Right from the Start NJ initiative. We're here in Vermont. You can hear what's going on behind us. There's a conference. This conference is the Turrell Fund Day for Children. The theme is on the importance of love in early childhood. That is the theme that comes from Fred Rogers. There's a documentary that you should check out about Fred Rogers. He's been talked about a lot here. His connection to children, his impact on children at PBS. And so lots of the conversations we're having are with people who understand these issues very well. And we're joined by Mark Sustic, who's Executive Director, Young Tradition Vermont, and also a trustee of the Turrell Fund. Good to see you, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Tell folks who may hear what's going on around us in another room, why this conference is so important when it comes to early childhood.
Well, it's a variety of purposes for the conference. One is it's our one opportunity a year to have the Turrell Fund represented in Vermont. As you may know, the Turrell Fund supports programs, activities for young children and their families in New Jersey as well as Vermont.
And in Jersey, it is in fact Right from the Start, and you'll see our website.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity to bring us up here, to bring the Turrell Fund up here. Although I'm a Vermont trustee, I'm already here, but not a lot of the trustees and the staff for the Turrell Fund get a chance to come to Vermont, and this is a chance to do that. It's also a chance to be seen and heard, to focus on some topics that we might all be interested in. We have our philanthropic partners from Vermont here, and so it's a kind of a convention of philanthropists, service providers who get funded by the foundation. And it's also a chance for folks to find out about the Turrell Fund and what we're interested in, and why maybe there will be some funding opportunities for them.
So it's interesting. I mentioned Fred Rogers, and in 1968, Fred Rogers broke very important ground in public broadcasting and in children's media overall. And so I mention him, Mark, because you have said that that's what Fred Rogers did. That's what children's programming should be.
Yeah.
But you've also said that today media is different. And you've said that screen time is an issue. I'll give you a quote from you. You'll talk about it. We live in a time saturated with screens. Some of that time should be spent connecting screen time to real life experiences and discussions. Break that down. And what does that have to do with 0 to 3?
Yeah. Well, because our environment is so saturated with media, with screens, whether it's a phone or an iPad or a television or whatever it might be, we have some evidence that an overuse of that is not particularly good developmentally for infants and toddlers. In fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics has come out with a recommendation that children should be exposed to no more than an hour of screen time per day. What we know from various studies that children are spending 2, 3, 4 hours in front of a screen. So there's really not a whole lot of use for a child to have a screen at that point unless it's an interaction with a parent or with an adult, a caring adult.
Give us a real life example.
Yeah. So let's say a child Well, of course, one of the exceptions for the American Academy of Pediatrics is a conversation with a serviceman a dad who might be overseas. So that's okay.
Let's take that off the table.
Yeah, all right. So it's an interaction, let's talk about books being an avenue toward the real world.
Right.
A book will open up some interest, some area of interest that a child and a parent might be able to explore further. So a child and a parent might be looking at something that's interesting on the screen and bring that into real life. Maybe take it to a book. Maybe take it to go to a museum or go to a park or whatever it is that might be interesting to that child.
And that's 0 to 3, because right from the start, NJ focuses on infants and toddlers.
Yeah.
Are we talking about infants and toddlers in screen time?
Well, we shouldn't.
We shouldn't be.
Yeah, we shouldn't be. Yeah, it's really not a usefulness for it. I think the thing that I always say is that what we can all back up to, if we find a place to agree, is that children should be happy, healthy, successful. And I say that partly because of what I believe, but also had lots of conversations with families about that specific target for hopes and dreams that they have for their children. And it usually comes down to some version of being happy, healthy, and successful. I say if that doesn't get us there, if the screen time doesn't get us to be happy, healthy, successful, then we have to question whether or not it's the right thing to do. There's another measure, it comes from medicine, do no harm. There's some evidence that the developmental trajectory of children that spend a lot of time with screen time from infancy to older do more poorly on developmental tasks later. So we've got some evidence that maybe screen time isn't a good thing to do, so why risk doing that, spending more time with it?
But Mark, sorry to interrupt. The other piece of this is if you're concerned about the whole standardized testing question in this way.
Yeah.
You said that if we are in fact using technology to get kids ready for educational evaluations and standardized testing, is that really what we should be doing?
No.
And that's a developmentalist issue as well.
Of course. I mean, it relates to the screen time issue. We had the Turrell Fund had a proposal that somebody, without identifying who it was, a proposal to buy computers to prepare the children to be able to take the test. Standardized tests. To be able to know if they were doing well. So not only are we teaching to the test, but we're buying equipment. We're being asked to pay for equipment that would allow children to take the test that is for a very, very narrow range of academically oriented things. One of the things that we know about assessment is that it's not just about math or science or literacy. There's a whole bunch of things about what happens in early childhood development that contributes to children being successful.
That you don't find out on a standardized test.
You don't find out on a standardized test. I think of standardized tests and screen time very much like junk food. A little bit of it is okay. You don't want it, but you don't want to have a steady diet.
An over-reliance?
An over-reliance of it. So in standardized testing, you don't want to have just standardized testing that just looks at a certain range, a narrow range of abilities. You want a wider range of abilities, and the way that we find out about that is through more sort of work sampling or portfolio assessment or an ongoing assessment by a teacher. Any teacher who's worth their salt is assessing at the same time they're teaching.
Why do you think we are as obsessed as we seem to be with standardized testing?
Well, we've been satisfied, and I wouldn't, not myself, but I think as a culture, we've become satisfied with test scores as a measure of how well children are doing.
The measure.
The measure. The exclusive measure. And that's the bad part of it. It's not, and particularly with testing, the younger the child is, the less reliable the measure is on a standardized test. It doesn't tell us how that child's going to be doing in kindergarten or beyond.
Let me do this. By the way, as a locator, I want to let you know, if you're watching us right now or listening to us on the audio side, we are coming to you from the Turrell Fund Day for Children here in Shelburne, Vermont. We're in Shelburne Farms right now in a place called Coach Barn.
This is the Coach Barn.
Amazing place.
Yeah. Do you know the story of this place?
Real quick, what's the short version?
All right, so Shelburne Farms was the Webb family, which owned a majority of the lumbering industry in New England, and the Vanderbilts, who owned the railroads.
The Vanderbilts?
The Vanderbilts, married. They had a marriage here. A couple of the descendants of both of those families married here. What you see here, this beautiful space, was a wedding gift as a summer home for this marriage. that was given as a gift.
So how do we wind up here having a conference on children?
Because in order to, the family could no longer sustain this as a private enterprise. The only way, they were going to lose it, or they had to change it to a nonprofit educational organization. And they've been working on that for 30 or 40 years and been quite successful in refurbishing the inn, refurbishing the buildings, making it available to folks like the Turrell Fund to do educational conferences. So that's what gets us here.
Well, I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad we're talking to you, Mark, and a whole range of people who care deeply about infants and toddlers.
Well, same.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
All right, thanks.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, Choose New Jersey, NJM Insurance Group, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer, and by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level? I'm Jose Lozano, President and CEO of Choose New Jersey, and I invite you to make history with us. From Thomas Edison's light bulb to today's breakthrough in cancer research, New Jersey inspires innovators. We are home to the highest concentration of scientists and engineers and #2 public school system in America. Discover New Jersey's inspiring, inclusive environment for companies of all sizes at ChooseNewJersey.com. Locate your company in the state of innovation.